Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to this episode of What Would You Miss? Again, Zoom style, stupid Corona. Today I have with me an old-time friend who I'm very excited to have on the platform. It's one of my dearest friends, and I'm happy to share his story. So, Stephen, welcome to What Would You Miss?
How you doing today?
Good. How are you?
You know, I've watched all these What Would You Miss podcasts.
And did you get sick of my voice?
That's a given, but that's not it. It's, you always say, welcome, beautiful people. What about us ugly ones? We don't get a welcome?
Everybody's beautiful, Stephen. Everybody is beautiful.
All right. Good answer.
Even you.
Yeah.
Although some might argue that with me. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell everybody who you are. Who the hell is Stephen?
So my name is Stephen Jones. I'm from Syracuse, New York, and I'm almost 50.
Wow.
I lived in Syracuse for 24 years, and I moved to North Carolina, a few places in between, but I've been away from Syracuse for 25 years now. And I have 3 kids. Sam, who is 24, Nicholas, who's 22, and Rachel, who's 21.
What if you screwed up their ages just now?
I actually probably should have wrote it down.
Probably should have.
I'm divorced. I was married for 19 years, and I live in Wake Forest. I have seen a lot of things and done a lot of things, had a lot of experiences, good ones and bad ones. And because I'm here, I've fought depression a little bit in my life. I say a little bit, it's kind of an understatement, but I'm on the other side. But as we know, we never really get to the other side. It's always kind of lingering around. Mm-hmm. But that's about all I got for you.
When you say you've had some good things and some bad things, would you change some of those bad things right now if you could?
Yeah, but I think those bad things made me the person I am. And, you know, that's the first question you asked me has to be the hardest one, right? So I'm thinking, let me just tell you, I was in prison for 7 years because I did some bad things. White collar crime. I mean, it didn't hurt anybody, didn't do anything. But that 7 years in prison molded me into the person I am. Now, it's a bad thing sometimes where I'm at, like mentally, and how I feel, and the things I missed out on. Like I missed all 3 of my kids' graduations, you know. Birthdays happen every year, but kids don't graduate every year, especially my son, Nicholas. So we're thankful for that. And I can say that because I say it to him all the time. And I was just like him. So, I mean, he gets it from me. It's not his fault. So, yes, I regret it, and I wish I could change it in order to be around my kids. But if you take my kids out of the picture, I feel like it was something almost like a retreat as far as sitting back and meditating and realizing what I had done and where my life was going, and kind of getting a better place mentally. Like some people talk about being in prison. Was it difficult? It really wasn't. I mean, there's times where it's tough, you know, but it also gives you time to really listen to other people and see how good your life really is, and see what you can bring to other people. I mean, I was almost a mentor for a lot of people in there, not necessarily because I'm wise, but because I've been.
We all know that ain't true.
But because I've been through things, and I think that I kind of explained it to them in the sense that, let me give you an example. Guys would be upset their girlfriends aren't answering the phone or whatever, or they break up. And to me, breaking up with somebody is hard, but it's part of life and it's something that you go through. You know what I mean? I've lost both of my parents. I lost my mother when I was 21, my father when I was 30. That's tough, losing a loved one like that, and having someone break up with you. I used to tell my kids, if you never had your heart broke, you're never going to know what love feels like. Because it's almost like you have to have the one sense in order to understand the other. And so long-winded answer, but my point being is that, do I miss my kids those 7 years? Absolutely. Did I miss drinking, hanging out with my friends, all that stuff? No, I didn't. I think I needed that time to get away from all that and realize there's more important things in life.
So you said something there, and I think we all do screwed up things. It's just part of life. I've shared my story a million times over, and we make mistakes. And there's reasons why we're screwing up and making mistakes, and usually it's because there's a deeper rooted reason why. It's not just about hurting your loved ones; it's about hurting yourself. And whether it's a white collar crime or anything above, we aren't born people to be assholes. We're born to be good people, and we do things sometimes because we're learning and we're evolving. Do you think that being in prison gave you time to have perspective on why you did what you did?
Absolutely. And I've actually told people, a handful of people, maybe 30, 40 people, that I almost refer to it. What's that?
A handful is 5. 30 is 5 times 5 or 5 times 6.
So it was a lot. Is that what you want me to say?
Yeah.
So I told them that it was almost like a chicken shit way of committing suicide. So you have all these problems, all these weights on you, and you think to yourself, I can't handle it. So you park the car in the garage, you do something drastic, you attempt suicide, and then you see, I can't leave my kids. You know what I mean? I can't do this to them. It's bad enough I have to go away. But I go away and I leave my ex-wife with all this mess that, she handled great. I mean, we're divorced, but we're friends. And I think I put a lot on her when I was in there, and she handled it extremely well. And her new husband helped out. And I mean, I owe them a lot for everything that they've done for my kids. But it weighed on me a little bit. But God, no, I'm lost. What was the question again?
I said, do you think that going into prison helped you realize why you were doing those things?
Yes, and it did. It was I was sometimes I felt like I was trying to buy love from my kids, or I was trying to live vicariously through other people's happiness. I had at times had given people a bunch of money so that they could take care of something, and they were happy. For that 5 minutes, I was happy. Then I would go home and I would cry myself to sleep because I knew what I was doing was wrong. I knew that my marriage was slowly failing, and I knew that I was letting my kids down, and they didn't know it yet. And there was going to get to the point where they were going to understand, and there was hatred there, especially one of my kids, and he was very upset with me. And, we've worked things out, and that was hard. And it was kind of chicken of me to do what I did. And bad and everything else with it, going to prison and stealing money. But I do feel like it opened up my eyes to the deeper issues that I had, the deeper things. Losing my mother at a young age, everyone has bad spats in their marriage, having bad spats in your marriage and trying to find something else to be happy. But I bet you I slept 3 hours a night my last 3-4 years before I went away, because I just couldn't sleep. A, I was doing something wrong. B, I had all this stuff on my head, like, why am I here? What am I doing? You know, I'm a fraud. Everyone thinks I'm happy, and I'm not happy. I'm miserable. You know, I put on a smiling face. And I mean, very few people would realize where I was in a mental state at that time. So
Yeah, they actually have a name for that now. It's called imposter syndrome. It's where you're emulating something that you're not. You've said a few things there that kind of made me think. You said that you disappointed your kids, you disappointed your ex-wife, your family, but you didn't say the one person who's most important there that you disappointed.
myself.
Yeah, right. Because that's really what this was about. Is that you can't make your kids be prideful of you, or your spouse, or your girlfriend, or your uncle, or your Aunt Louie, Lucy, whoever, if
Right.
you don't have pride in yourself.
Right. And it's funny because you're the first person to ever say that. And I've never thought that. I've never thought about disappointing myself because I knew what I was doing. And I don't know. I mean, I feel more like so I go through the struggle of my mother and father both being passed away. And when I was in prison, I'd say to myself, God, I wish my mother was alive so I can call her. But then I'd say, oh my God, if my mother was alive, she would have had a heart attack when all this happened. You know what I mean? So it's like you go back and forth. But I feel like in heaven, I disappointed my parents, disappointed my uncle, disappointed my grandmother, people who thought I was on the right track, thought I was doing great. And I wasn't. And I should have been more upfront and forward with how I was feeling. But I didn't think there was an answer. Like, I didn't think someone could go, oh, you feel that way? Well, here, drink this water and take this pill and you're going to feel much better tomorrow.
It was just that easy. But I think a lot of this has to do with our age group too, because, we were raised to not talk about our feelings, to really talk about them, or to express how you were truly feeling. I mean,
Right.
That's how we were raised. We were raised, you were an athlete, so you were, strong athlete, you're not supposed to feel that way. You're a strong athlete. I've been through trauma and everyone's like, oh my God, she's so strong and she's so funny and she's so happy and all that. And we're none of those things without letting people know our feelings. If you could do anything for your kids, what would it be? What would you want them to know about this whole thing? Like, what would you want your lesson to them be about this? And I don't mean as simple as don't do the crime. Let's not be stupid. Our kids, they're going to do shit. So that's not really what I'm looking for.
I think the biggest thing is that people are going to make mistakes, some big, some small. Mm-hmm. And the amount of love you have for them is how you act when they do that. So when I was in prison, the kids got in trouble. All. Some big, some small. And it's not my philosophy to tell them, I told you so. It's to say, I'm here for you. Let's fix it. Mm-hmm. And then say, what can we do differently later on? Because a lot of times I feel like I did what I did and I lost a lot of friends. One in particular that really bothers me. And I didn't do anything to them. I didn't make them go to prison. I didn't get them in trouble. I didn't do anything. And I feel like sometimes you have to be there for people in the darkest times, and that represents true love, unconditional love. And I want my kids to understand that people make mistakes, and if you love them in their good times, you need to love them more in their bad times.
Those are wise words.
Yeah. Thank you. Write that down.
Yeah, I think those are words that I've said myself a few times. You said that
you can't take credit for everything. Just because you made a sandwich this morning didn't mean you invented it, okay?
I didn't make a sandwich.
There's probably some 7-course Italian dinner.
Possibly. Do you have a problem with that? I did make a sandwich, actually. I made a hash brown egg sandwich for Julie, and it was delicious. Anyways, you said that you have lived through depression, and you know it's something that's always there for you. What are some things that you do to help you when you're feeling that heaviness and that weight come on you?
That's a good question. I think that most of the time I think of my kids and think about what they went through for 7 years. And even before the 7 years, when me and my ex-wife were going through tough times, I mean, you think your kids never know, but they know. And I think that I think about them and what they have to go through in life every day and what's ahead of them with all this chaos we have going on in the world. And I think you have got to be strong for them and you have to be there for them.
Stop. I'm stopping you. The whole point of What Would You Miss is not about your kids. This isn't about your freaking dog or your sister or your brother or your other sister. This is about you. What does Stephen need when he is really down? What do you need?
Thoughts of my kids was the answer. Thoughts of my kids, like thinking about their future. Now I have a granddaughter now. She's
Gramps.
seven or 8 months. And unfortunately with coronavirus, I haven't seen her that much, but I get to see her once in a while. And future, like I want to see the future. Like I've been through hell and I want to see what the future brings. I want to see my kids get married. I want to see my grandkids. I want to see it. That's what gets me through it. Thinking about all the things I would really miss.
Yeah. So for you, I think it's a little different because you actually missed things that other people probably take for granted.
Right.
So I can see that. So you said you can think of the future. So where is Stephen going to be in 8 years when he's almost 60 years old and his kids are grown and he's sitting in his recliner? What's something that you would miss and you see in your life at that age, knowing everything you've been through?
Unconditional love, the love that people give you. I mean, you cannot pay for that. I mean, you can't buy it anywhere. I did what I did and my kids love me. They come over here. My daughter sleeps in bed with me when she comes over. We watch TV together. She tells me about her boyfriend. She tells me about, I mean, it's stuff like that you cannot pay for and you can't get. It's not a cup of coffee. It's not a McDonald's burger. It's not whatever. It's something that is right in front of your face and you don't realize. And when you do something and you hurt yourself and unfortunately, if you passed away, you're going to miss that because no matter what, you can call that person or talk to that person and they're going to answer the phone and they're going to talk to you and they're going to show you love. And I feel that I think love is so underrated. I think people take it for granted. I got to the point in prison. So I'm in prison. These guys are, did some bad crimes. I talk to them on the phone. You know what we say to each other when we hang up the phone? I love you. Mm-hmm. I say I love you to everyone when I hang up the phone. I mean, it's how you feel. I mean, if someone's in your life and you don't love them, they shouldn't be in your life.
That's a nice perspective. And I agree. Love is we do take it for granted. And when you have unconditional love, when someone's giving you that love, it's not something you should throw away because giving unconditional love is extremely difficult. And you said something about your daughter that I think was just so beautiful. It wasn't so much about, going shopping with her. And it's really not just about the love. It's just laying there and like watching a movie with her and hanging out. And that's something that I think is more important than anything else that you just said, because that is the feeling of love. And that's kind of like the whole purpose of this, right? Like, so recently I had a guy that said that Diet Coke was what he would miss, right? We all know that he's got other things in his life that he would miss more than a Diet Coke, but that Diet Coke makes him feel really good. Like he loves to drink it. And it makes him put a smile on his face. But laying there with your daughter and watching some stupid freaking movie, you know, Incredibles or whatever the hell you guys are watching, you can't take that away, that moment.
Right. And keep in mind, my daughter's 21 years old.
I was hoping you'd say that. Yes.
It's not like she's 12 and I'm babysitting. I mean, right. She could be out with her friends having a good time, but she wants to hang out.
So how does that make you feel, knowing that your kids have this incredible unconditional love for you? When you had said previously, when we first started talking, you talked about how they had resentment and maybe even a little hate towards you. And now you see this like incredible love that they have for you.
It makes me feel honored and blessed. I mean, you know, people talk about being blessed and blessed with money, blessed with material things, but to me, you're lucky if you're blessed with love, especially unconditional love. So I had Christmas Day this year, talking about love and all that. So it's my first Christmas out, first Christmas with my granddaughter. And the whole time, right before I got out, I'm thinking, God, this is going to be great. First Christmas, we're all going to hang out. My granddaughter's going to come over. We're going to have a great time. And, well, none of that happened. You know, my granddaughter went to her other side of her family's house, and, you know, which is great for them. And it's first Christmas. And my kids had plans to go over to their mother's house, and which is all great. I don't fault anyone for that. But I took my dog for a walk that morning, and I was saying to myself, what am I doing? Like, everyone's life has moved on, and everyone's life is fine without you. You did what you did. You were gone for 7 years. You put them through that torture. Now that they can function without you, and they don't need to be around you. And that was the last time I had that feeling of, holy shit, like you really don't need to be here. Now, I'm going to preface that with saying it's not true. It was just what my mind was going through. And that's kind of the struggle when you're incarcerated for a long period of time that you go through. You get out in the first 2 or 3 weeks, the first month, people are coming by to see you. Everyone's happy to see you. Oh my God, we're so glad you're out, blah, blah, blah. And then it ends. And then no one says anything anymore. And people go about their life. And you're like, God, I was gone for 7 years. Like, this is my first 4th of July out. Why isn't everyone having a party for me? You know what I mean? It's nonsense. But in my head and in people's heads that are in there that get out for long periods of times, I'm talking 6, 7, 8, 20, 30, 40 years, I think sometimes they feel like there's going to be this big hoopla every time something happens because you've missed so much. And it doesn't happen. And that was probably the last time that I was depressed and felt like I didn't need to be here. Now, I realized all that, and what I just told you was that that's not true. They all want to be with me, but it's not all about me. And I have to understand that there's other people in their lives, and there's other people who have been there, and there's other people. And I'm not the single source of their entertaining me.
But when you were feeling that in that moment, what stopped you, or what sent you into thinking, no, wait, hold on, I'm okay. Like, I should totally be here.
I think my dog looked up and said something to me.
No, seriously. Like, did
I'm joking. So I said that when I walked out of the house, and I'm walking down the street, it's freezing cold. And I say this to myself, and I get around the corner and I say to myself, you're being ridiculous. It's not about you. You need to understand that people love you, and you don't have to react in the moment right then and there to how you're feeling. It's a process that you have to work through. You know, you go to the store, you see your best friend, they don't see you. You say hello, they don't say hello to you. because they didn't see you or they're busy. You go home and you think about it for 2 days. Why didn't they say hello to me? I'm confused. Did I do something wrong? What's wrong with me? And it's a process you have to think through. No, it's not what it is. They were just busy or they didn't hear you. You know what I mean? And I think people who have anxiety like that, they struggle because they feel like everything's got to be perfect. And when it's not, it's the old woe is me, everybody hates me, I'm going to go eat worms kind of thing. And it's like, and it's not true. I have a great family, great brothers and sisters, great kids, great ex-wife, great everything. None of these things that I'm feeling has anything to do with them. They didn't invite me to something. They didn't do this. It has nothing to do with them. It has to do with what goes on in my head and what I'm dealing with or dealt with. And I think that's important because as somebody who's tried to commit suicide, automatically people around them think, what could I have done differently? I could have done something else. What could I have done? And sometimes it's not their fault. There's nothing they could have done because I'm just going to say, I'm fine. I'm fine. Let's hang out. It's no big deal. So it's hard for people around us to hear that we have these thoughts when it's not their fault.
So first of all, you're right and you're wrong on some things. We don't commit suicide, we die by suicide. That's actually an important thing that I have to correct because when we say commit, it makes it sound like it's an illegal act and we don't want to stigmatize it more. But when you talked about anxiety, you are right. Anxiety is in our head, 100%. It's stored up there. We create scenarios. Everything you described about Christmas morning was in your head because you're right. Your family's great and they totally love you. I don't think it's always as easy as how you described it. And I think you're being very light in how you described it. I think it was probably a little heavier at that moment than just saying, oh, I'm just in my head. They all love me. You know, it takes us a while to get to that point. And you are an anomaly because a lot of people don't have such great perception of their anxiety and what they're struggling with because maybe they didn't go through what you went through. I understand that, but how you think is very different than how other people think when they're going through depression and anxiety. And I think your words are very poignant and I think they're important to hear because while it might not be as easy as saying, oh, this is silly. Everybody likes me, you know, this isn't all about me. It's also important to understand that because when you're in a stressful moment and you're filled with anxiety, it's you that's taking over. It's not your friend or your neighbor or whoever. You want to yell at me now, don't you?
No, I'm fine. You said I was wrong. I didn't hear anything else you said after that. I don't know what else you said.
People can tell you you're wrong. I hate to tell you. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, though, I think that it's...
No, I understand. I didn't, and I'm telling you that that Christmas morning was based on me being in prison, not because I was fighting depression. I mean, I guess maybe they're both the same thing, but it was what a lot of people who are incarcerated deal with when they get out.
So when you got out, did like your parole officer or your lawyer or anyone say, okay, well, here's a therapist for you to talk to because you're probably going to go?
No.
So nothing.
Nothing.
They just sent you out the door and said, have a great day.
Gave me my red folder and said goodbye.
It's a red folder?
Mm-hmm.
Is everybody got a red or is it just your
If you see me with a red folder, you know I'm getting out.
Oh, so that's kind of screwed up because we try, you know, in America, we try people. If they're convicted, they do their time. When they come out, they should be, you know, you still have to read.
Let me say this to you. I got off of probation last week. And I have not heard or seen from my probation officer in 9 months. So even getting off probation, they didn't sit down with you and say, okay, you're off probation, so make sure you do this. If you need any help, go here. If you feel, and you know, you're going to do something or whatever, nothing.
Well, I will tell you that the suicide rate amongst prisoners who are released is pretty high. And as far as, being incarcerated as well, it's very high. And you're actually proving the reasons why it is because there's no support afterwards. I mean, you're lucky enough to have a great family and friends. So what would you say needs to be different in those scenarios?
As far as the prison system?
Yeah.
A lot. I feel like counseling should almost be mandatory when you're in prison. And
Absolutely.
if you ask to go see a psych, you are labeled and it is marked in your folder. You can't get certain jobs. You can't do certain things.
Just if you say you need to see a therapist.
Yeah. Then you become on some type of watch list. Like, I worked at the governor's mansion when I was in prison. I was a governor's butler in the state of North Carolina for 3 years. I worked under 2 administrations. I had to go through 3 psych evaluations to get that job. But yet, other people who get work release and go out in the community and ride the bus with everyday people don't go through any psych evaluations. And it just, to me, I'm like, I just don't understand how that person is on the street. Then you hear these guys doing stuff and it's like, why was no one talking to them? And I feel like they leave with no trade. They leave, I mean, they got classes there, but it's a joke. And they leave with no job opportunity. They say, go find a job. Well, it's hard to find a job when you just got out. I mean, I have a friend who just got out. He's been in for 28 years, and he's like, I don't even know where to start.
Right.
I handed him a phone that day to call somebody, and he's holding it like, what do I do? He doesn't know how to use a phone. He doesn't know how to use a computer. He doesn't know anything about social media. It's like, people forget that the internet isn't 50 years old. You know what I mean? If you're in prison for 25, 30 years, the internet really wasn't out.
Right.
And that's how everybody wants you to fill out an application. That's how everybody wants you to do this stuff. And I feel like a lot of times there should be more processes in the prison system months before you get out of applying for jobs, taking you on job interviews, not for work release while you're in, but for when you get out.
Just to teach you how to do it.
Exactly. But again, they could teach you, and coronavirus, libraries are closed, so they can't go to the library and use the computer or the internet.
I didn't think
so how are they going to do it?
Right.
You don't go to a grocery store and ask for an application anymore.
You don't?
No, they say go online and fill out an application.
Oh, I don't know. Snap at me like that. Jeez. Well, now you made me forget because you got snarky with me. I think that they definitely, I'm a little flabbergasted that you're incarcerated, anybody, anywhere, no matter where they are, what type of prison they're in, and they're not getting therapy. They should all be getting therapy, every single one of them.
It's all a staff issue. You know what I mean? They want to hire people to be guards, not to be therapists. You got to pay a therapist $60,000, $70,000 a year. You pay a guard $27,000.
Sure, but then we shouldn't complain about
No, we shouldn't. You're absolutely right.
They are released and they commit a crime again.
So here's the problem. People outside of the prison, majority, think they're in prison for a reason. Who cares? And they don't fight the government or the DPS, Department of Public Safety, to make sure these guys are, quote unquote, stable when they get out. They don't care because it is a money machine. Every time someone goes in, the state gets money. Every time someone goes out and they come back in, the state gets money. Mm-hmm. They used to say it was $30,000. You're worth $30,000. Every time you come to prison, federal government gives them $30,000, and it's like North Carolina used to be known as the tobacco state or the farming state. And now it's known as the inmate state because they make more money off of us than they make off anything else. And they don't want to use that money for anything that's going to actually solve anything. And in their defense, they're dealing with a lot of things in there that guards are more important sometimes.
I can understand that.
Protecting other inmates, drug use.
I watched Prison Break.
All those things that they do need guards, but who wants to be a guard? North Carolina last year, I think, was it last year, the year before, had 4 guards get killed, and probably 50 of them get attacked. And it's like, who wants to do that for $30,000 a year? Nobody. So they get the worst of the worst in there. They get gang members, whatever, and they're in there as prison guards, and it's just a bad cycle. And I feel like they should take this money and put it more towards psychiatric help and tools for inmates when they get out.
Yeah, because we want people to succeed. I mean, we can't succeed without the right tools. We just can't.
Right.
You know, and I don't even mean somebody incarcerated. I mean, everyday people. I mean, you can take someone who's homeless. They're homeless for many reasons. And I mean, obviously one can be mental illness, but they may lack tools that they need to succeed. I mean, it's just the truth. And without them, how can we expect anything better from? And right. I mean, I can't imagine the anxiety that you feel when you're released. You're probably elated that this is happening, but I can't imagine the amount of anxiety when everything you just said, you know, cell phones, job, clothes, internet, like all these things that you don't know how to use. A car, like, are thrown in your face.
Because a lot of these people live in the country and there's no buses in the country. You know, people are like, oh, just take the bus. There is no bus. They can't afford Uber. You know what I mean? And it's like, I need to go on a job interview. Now, and there's a lot of people, mentors, churches that help out and drive guys around. But those are only the guys that are willing to take the extra step to meet somebody while they're in there when church comes in there and all that. The guys that aren't willing to take the step are the ones that sometimes need more attention to see the light and to make them understand. Right. They came to prison when they were 16 or 18. They got out when they were 22. They came back when they were 24. They got out when they were 35. They came back when they were 37, and they're still in there. And they're saying to themselves, I can't wait to get out. I'm going to get a job at Red Lobster, and I'm going to buy myself an Escalade and get me a house and all this. I'm like, they have no concept whatsoever of society and what's really going on. So what happens? They get out. They can't make any money. They can't get the Escalade. They can't get a house. They can't make rent. They got 2 or 3 kids they're paying for. So what do? They go back to selling drugs, and they go back to prison. Because guess what? Prison is easy compared to the real world.
Sure, because everything's right there. You don't have to think.
They wake you up, they feed you, they give you some place to stay. You know what I mean? It's like, I remember one time I was working at the mansion, and one of the troopers said to me, looked at me real serious. He's like, Steve, how you doing? Are you hanging in there? And I said, yeah, I'm doing great. He goes, you are? And I said, I have no bills. I said, I get fed every day. I said, I have some place to stay. I said, they clothe me. I don't have to buy clothes. I don't have to worry about wearing what designer clothes are out there nowadays or sneakers or anything like that. I said, how are you doing? And he said, damn, I didn't think about it like that. He sat down and started talking to me about his problems for 30 minutes. Like, oh, this is going on, and my daughter's doing this, and my ex-wife is this, and it's like sometimes people don't realize that a lot of these people go back to prison because it's easier.
Well, and they probably, and I'm obviously speculating, feel safer because they're safe. They're safe there.
You're right. People talk about prison being dangerous and worrying about it, but it's compared to what they're used to out on the streets. It's
and
great.
Not being prepared for it is what I'm talking about. Like that's scary to not have any, money or clothes or any of that stuff, and then be just sent out. I mean, that is exactly why the suicide rate and reconviction is so high.
Well, I think the suicide rate is more aimed towards the people who don't have family and maybe are a drug addict but didn't sell drugs. People who, when they get out, it's basically they have nothing. I mean, even the worst person in the world sometimes has somebody there that's going to give them a house, someplace to go. And I think it's a sense of being a failure and having to go back there. And there's abuse in prison. They don't want to go back. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to lie. There's things that happen in prison, but some people get abused in there and they don't want to go back, and they feel like that's where they're going to end up being. And they end up committing suicide.
Dying by
suicide.
And I think anyone who's watching this understands that you're not trying to sugarcoat
No.
and say that it's like easy, and that's not the point. You're trying to give a perspective on why, why people feel that it's a safe place. And I think it's really important to understand. And I think you're also showing, why being released must be so difficult, because you just don't know what you're going to expect when you're not given anything to prepare for it. A red folder and the clothes on your back, I'm assuming, right? Do they give you clothes?
Yeah. You get clothes. Like your people can bring you clothes like the day you get released, and then you dress in those. But it's funny. God, you just said something. I'm going to say something. But if you don't have clothes, they give you wear prison clothes out. And it's so funny because we'd be working somewhere and we'd see a guy walking around with white pants on. And we'd say, oh, that guy just got out of prison.
Because he had white pants on. That was part of the
say white pants. No one wears white pants anymore unless you're, playing golf or some fancy or whatever.
Gotcha. Oh, like white pants. Like
white pants. Yeah.
Oh, that's not.
It's funny because you just said something that I think there's a definite, when you said being safe in prison, there's a fine line, right? Like guys who go there a lot and know a lot of people in there, they feel safe in there. Mm-hmm. Guys who don't go there, we've been there once, been there twice, whatever, they don't feel safe there. You know what I mean? So and believe me, the majority is the people that don't feel safe.
Right. I think what I'm thinking of when I say those people that feel safe, those are probably the ones that have a very high reconviction rate because they want to go back. And they're probably the ones, like you were just saying a minute ago, that have no family, that have no support system once they get out, because without
right.
support system, what can you have? I also have read that the addiction rate is really high after prison because, there's a numbing factor in that. You don't really know what's going on, and the addiction rate is extremely high, which is a mess to begin with.
I think the important thing to realize is someone goes to prison for 7 years, don't think they haven't been doing drugs for 7 years. They were addicted when they got out because they're still doing it. It's something that no matter what they do or how they handle it, there's going to be drug use in prison.
Well, and not just that, but addiction has all different levels, right? So you may be addicted to, porn, or you might be addicted to Diet Coke. And then when you get out, the pressure's turning into something else. I mean, normally living with addiction doesn't mean that you quit and that there's no addiction there. When you have an addiction, you usually transfer it to something else. And,
right.
Hopefully you choose a healthy alternative, but that's not the case all the time. It's, if you don't have the right, I don't want to say therapy because I hate using that word, the right treatment plan, then you will not turn to a healthy alternative. You just won't.
Right.
And that healthy alternative can be someone who loves you and shows you unconditional love and that you are worthy of it. And I think everything you said is kind of what I was thinking about, is that you went through all this, you did something, you got in trouble for it, and you were trying to be someone you weren't. Do you feel like there's a part of you that didn't realize you were worth it to be who you are?
Yeah. Are you asking me if I felt any worth?
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
Right.
I did.
And that's where self-destruction comes hand in hand, when we feel that sense of worth. And really why I created what would you miss, because I felt worthless too. I felt like, God, I'm not worth any of this. Why would anyone bother? And it's funny what we put in our heads, like you were saying, like that's me thinking that, it's not you thinking it. How do you now feel about yourself and your worth?
Wow, loaded question. Um, I would say 80% of the time I feel like I'm worth something. I would say that 20% of the time, and I'm not saying, I think that that's a normal thing in life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But there's part of the days or the weeks or the months that go by that I don't feel worthy. I don't feel like I deserve what I got or what people are doing for me, or, I mean, I think that the definition of feeling worthy is something that is a struggle for a lot of people, because what is it do I feel worthy about? Like,
Absolutely.
do I feel worthy at work? Do I feel worthy with my family? Do I feel worthy with my friends? And so to answer your question, no, there's still times that I don't feel worthy.
Worth and depression, anxiety, suicidal ideations all go hand in hand, because when you start feeling that worthlessness, you're also embarrassed. You're really embarrassed. Like, what the fuck? Like, I'm not even worth this. Like, I'm so embarrassed that I have no worth. And you are right. I do believe that this is natural, and it's something we evolve. And every day we find something else that we are worth, which gives us hope. And that's how the only way to find hope is through worth.
Right.
I'm going to do two things because I always do it. One is you told us what you would miss. And I just love the fact I can't stop. I know you said love. I know you said all that.
Well, let me say this. If I would miss steak, filet mignon, nice medium rare,
Really?
thick filet mignon. Yes, absolutely.
Not veal?
I like veal, but I would miss the filet mignon.
Okay.
Veal's so hard to get in North Carolina. You can't get good veal. It's all small and chopped up. And
that's because they ain't Italian. That's why. I love that you would miss steak. Like, I get it. But you miss just watching a movie with your daughter is just something I can't stop thinking about, because it's so beautiful. And I know she's going to love to hear that. And steak, because I'm pretty sure she likes steak too.
Well, she does. Carnivore.
But if you weren't here, I would miss you, because you're a pain in the ass, but I'd still miss you. And I would miss arguing with you about SU and you telling me all the things that I get wrong about it.
Pretty much, yes. Which is most of the time.
I'm being nice now. I would miss your wise ass comments when you think you're being funny and smart ass, I would miss those. I would miss that stupid smile that you get when you think that you've won something. And you didn't really, but you think it. So we'll let it slide.
Emery, here's my question. What do I say to you when a basketball player makes a bad move or does something wrong?
It's just a game. Just a kid playing a game.
Okay, just a kid playing a game. Leave him alone. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
It's a free throw for a reason.
I should have known you weren't done, because you're never done talking.
Shut your mouth, okay? I would miss the way that you make other people feel. I would miss watching that, because you have a great way of making people feel really solid and good about themselves. And it's really an honor to be your friend and to see that, especially with your friends that have been incarcerated or maybe getting out or maybe still there. You give them a lot of support, and it's a really beautiful thing to see. And I would really miss that about you.
Great. I appreciate that.
Last thing I would like you to do, and I'm going to give you a couple seconds to think about it. Okay.
Oh, jeez, here we go.
So you're going to look directly into this camera. Like,
right.
You are talking to yourself when you were laying in bed one of those nights 3 years before everything happened, and you're feeling really low, and you have such angst about everything and you feel like you're disappointing everyone and you just really want it to end, what would you tell yourself? And I want you to just say it like that, like, hey, Steve, I know you're whatever. What would you tell yourself knowing everything you know right now?
I would say,
Nope. You gotta say, hey, Steve, you're talking to yourself.
I'm going to, but it's almost going to be a story involved in this, so you're going to have to deal with it.
There is.
I would say, Steve, do you remember that time you were driving down the road in a prison van and you saw that young kid running around crazy and his father in front of him? And when that father got to the street corner and it was really, really busy, and the kid ran over and grabbed his father's hand, like, help me across the street. Like, I'm a madman over here and I'll do whatever I want. But when I'm in danger and I need somebody, I'm going to reach out for you. I would say it's never too late to reach out for someone's hand and ask for help.
That was beautiful. And I'm highly impressed that you did that off the fly.
Well, it's kind of, you put me under a lot of pressure, but my mother must have been up there and she put that in my head for me.
Is it 8:00? Oh, no.
I think what I would have said was, Steve, don't worry, Family Guy's coming on again tomorrow.
Oh, Jesus. On Family Guy on Rewind. Well, it has been really great having you sit in the chair across from me. I think your story is important. I think that people need to hear it and understand that, you know, we all struggle, like all of us, whether, you know, it's that guy or that woman sitting, you know, in the local public safety building or in jail. They're struggling. And that person who's incarcerated or maybe released is going through the same struggles that you know, guy up on the hill who lives in the big house with a big pool in the backyard. It doesn't matter your, you know, socio-demographic or your, you know, how much money you make or the color of your skin or your religion. It doesn't matter. We all struggle, and we should all be like that kid that you just described and, you know, reach out for a hand and get some help that we need. So.
Well, it was great talking to you. You educated me tonight. I appreciate it. I'm just shocked that we talked for this long and my dog hasn't moved, not one bit. I have a 7-month-old puppy and he's usually jumping on the table and barking, and he's still sitting over there. So my dad must have been holding him down and my mother was putting ideas in my head.
There you go. Your parents are always with you. And for the record, I'm pretty sure as a parent, you would say this to your child too. No matter what you do, I'm always proud of you. And I'm sure that's what your parents are thinking too.
Right. I appreciate that.
Thanks for joining me.
All right. Thank you.